We've been discussing and rolling out our financial wellbeing program. To give a bit of background, we've built this awesome platform, eccuity, and it makes investing in modelled portfolios and creating your own modelled portfolios very cost effective. In some cases, 50 to 80% cheaper than other people in our space. But of course, we need more people that are in a financial situation that they have the residual capital to save. Because of the cost of living going up through inflation has meant that people don't have the cash flow that they may have used to have had. You know, before building eccuity, I went on a journey of my own of how to get myself stable and the actual anxiety behind not really knowing and just going week by week. So our program is designed to help people confront the situation and then the solutions become clear.
Yeah. That's such a brave thing to do, to actually front the challenge. Not many people do that.
Well, I think that it's a daunting thing, and I think that from a societal perspective, we feel a lot of shame around our financial situation. Well, thank you for this little bit of downtime we have in between other podcasts, but we've been discussing and rolling out our financial wellbeing program with employers, which you've been instrumental in helping us.
Thanks.
Through your advice and your guidance. But we did do an episode on this that didn't turn out right when we were just validating the idea.
Yeah.
And since then, we've made lots of progress. So it's a cool opportunity for us to talk about some of the progress we've made, some of the clients that we've brought on board, and some of the employees that have been through, or just individuals as well, that have been through the financial wellbeing program.
Okay.
So, you know, to give a bit of background, obviously we've built this awesome platform, eccuity, and it makes investing in modelled portfolios and creating your own modelled portfolios very cost effective, and in some cases 50 to 80% cheaper than other people in our space. So very cost effective, modern, and beautiful to use. But of course, we need more people in the world that are in a financial situation that they have the residual capital to save.
Right.
And in this current climate, what we've noticed over the last couple of years is that because of the cost of living going up through inflation, and I guess there being a bit of a softer economy, the two merged has meant that people don't have the cash flow that they may have used to have had and may have never had, actually. And there may have just been a temporary boost through the pandemic where there was a little bit extra money kind of being stimulated into the households, and that also created an environment perhaps where we were spending money that we maybe wouldn't have had. So it seems really timely, and you know, before building eccuity, I went on a journey of my own of how to get myself stable and how to put myself in a situation where I had the ability to save and the ability to build my wealth. And it actually fundamentally starts from having money left over at the end of the month. And the actual anxiety behind not really knowing and just going week by week. So our program is designed to help people confront the situation and then the solutions become clear.
Yeah, that's such a brave thing to do, to actually front the challenge.
Yes.
Not many people do that.
Yes, well, I think that it's a daunting thing, and I think that from a societal perspective, we feel a lot of shame around our financial situation. Like, are we doing something wrong? Are we worth less because we don't know? So there are kind of some structural components, I guess, that impact that. And we want to confront it head on and say, no, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's actually liberating. And what customers have told us through testimonials is that liberating a weight off my shoulders just by seeing where we're at today and getting some goals for the future.
Yeah, it's the ability to actually go, this is where I'm at, right? Like, I think because there's so much uncomfortableness around discussing money with other people outside your family, sometimes even within the family, that the whole, and also some of the she'll be right, mate, kind of attitude of a lot of Kiwis kind of leaves you vulnerable, I suppose, to the ups and downs within the market and, you know, cost of living crisis and that kind of thing. So I think, you know, being able to actually see on paper, okay, this is my financial situation at the moment, doesn't mean that this is going to be my financial situation always.
Totally.
is an important
And we
thing.
go through different phases, and the way we run it is, I guess there are different paths depending on where the person's at. You've mentioned this many times with your health coaching, you've got to meet people where they're at.
Yep.
So, you know, it looks slightly different depending on where the individual's at. And that's what we thought was differentiated in the market, was that we were focused away from selling financial product and more focused on, hey, what is the situation like at a fundamental level, and how can we then move levers to make it better? Found that, you know, you can improve productivity in the workplace, you can reduce that kind of background stress that's kind of constantly nagging away at you. And that ultimately leads to better outcomes for employers and more fulfilled employees. So doing these sessions, you find a lot about the psyche of the individual and where they're coming from. They're like, well, I loved my job or I love my work, but I don't love right now because I feel like I'm on a treadmill. And then they can come out of the session and be like, well, now I have, if I implement this plan, I have $600 left over every month. And then I'm no longer on a treadmill because I'm making those little steps forward. So that's been really cool to see and observe and really understand kind of more at an acute level.
So what kind of reception have you got, I suppose, from, you know, businesses in New Zealand around a financial wellbeing program? Like, it's a fairly new concept. Have people kind of jumped on board with this, or it's something you've had to almost educate them about?
Yeah, a little bit, because the employer may believe they're doing a financial wellbeing program. They might get the bank in, they might have a relationship with the bank, they might get the bank in, the bank comes in and talks about basic kind of financial things. However, it very quickly leads to product, which is cash accounts, credit cards, mortgages, different pieces there that are around consumption of. And I guess our argument or our kind of observation is that perhaps we're actually consuming too many financial products, and that's actually negatively impacting our cash flow. So there's a bit of an education in there saying, hey, this isn't a group session only where we talk about our product. This is a one-on-one session where that individual can be liberated from their anxiety, where they can gain focus and a pathway to what they want to achieve. And by doing that, you're enabling them to be more productive and happier at work, which leads to better business outcomes for you.
So what are some of the outcomes an employer should see once they've had their staff go through the financial wellbeing program?
Typically, you would look to, or the objective would be to improve company culture. Through individually intervening with those that want to be a part of the program. It's not mandatory. You can't, you know, can't force people to do this. And what we typically find is maybe 30% of their workforce might take it up. But you know, less sick days, for example, better productivity, and a better culture. Those are our three kind of
key points,
primary areas that we want to see improvements, and you can tangibly see that, especially through something like a sick day, and even something around, like, you know, if you're in a manufacturing role and you're delivering product, you know, what is there a percentage increase in the amount of rework? Because if you're reducing rework, that's probably because people are more focused and making less mistakes, and therefore more productive in the workplace.
Well, that's it. When you employ someone, you employ the whole person, even though you're only paying them for the 40 hours that they might work for you and the job that they're doing. The reality is whatever's impacting their lives, they bring to work with them, right? And if you don't address that, I think, A, you're not being a good leader, but B, you are letting, you know, potential things come into the workplace that are going to have those negative impacts.
Especially if it's kind of systemic, due to where your business is located and who happens to be employed at the time. And I think that, you know, where we're talking to employers and seeing how we can improve things, they're actually giving us ideas and
Okay.
telling us about the other impacts that they could see. Like, for example, obviously, if you have a high churn of employee,
Yeah.
then you're having to continuously retrain people. And we talked to James from Previously Unavailable,
Yes.
and he talked about his 30-year plan around his employees and how, and that's an extreme example, that's like over to one extreme, right, rather
Yeah.
than the other. But by having a long-term plan with your employees and then being bought into the kind of roadmap, you're going to keep them for longer. And that means you're going to avoid costs to offboard and obviously onboard new new employees.
Yeah.
So you want to keep your team as long as you require them for your strategic objectives within your
Yeah.
business. And you don't want to see unnecessary churn and see IP leaving the door every 3 months.
Yeah, totally. So so from an employee perspective, what am I going to gain from this?
Well, the direct, going back directly to the direct cost of improving things within the workplace.
Yeah.
And then you're going to actually get that loyalty from your employees because they see you genuinely trying to improve their financial situation.
Yeah.
And as an employer, at the end of the day, we pay our employees, and the future of our employees are somewhat intertwined with our role.
Yeah.
Yes, they may come with a bunch of student debt when they come to our employment or whatever situation they come in with, but to a certain degree, we are directly attached to their financial outcomes. So we want to give them the best platform to achieve their financial outcomes, which then can be aligned to the business outcomes.
Okay, so it's also, I suppose, people talk about employer of choice, right? So having that extra string to your bow around enabling your people to be more financially literate and enabling them to, see where they're at in terms of their financial journey and then being able to help them move forward from that. That would definitely, like in my mind at least, that would look good on a website. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how does that feed in then to, I suppose, the image of a company and what they offer potential employees as well? Like, it's a good employee benefit.
Well, absolutely aimed at that being a benefit for the individual and for them to see that this is a place I want to be because they're thinking about my outcomes too. And I guess that goes back to James's vision
Yeah.
around what he wants to see from his employees and setting his 18 employees to be financially free in the next kind of 10 to 30 years. And it doesn't have to be, that doesn't have to be the objective of every employer, but it could be every employee that joins us leaves in a better financial situation than when they
Came in the door.
when they come in the door. So I think that is something that, as a leader, that's a great thing to be known for, because that then, I've often found that the best people, they might go off for a bit, but then they come back.
Yeah, that's so true.
And they're more likely to come back if, they have that association with you being aligned with their goals.
So in terms of, I sign up for a financial wellbeing program. So there's a one-off session that's delivered to everybody.
Yeah, so we typically run an event or a couple of events with the employers. There's no obligation, no cost to that. We just want to empower New Zealand with better financial literacy.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, a call to action, which is, hey, your employer has opted into this is awesome, and they're actually willing to fund you to have this financial wellbeing program, which includes a one-on-one consultation, 3 check-ins throughout the year going forward, because it's not just...
It's not a one-off.
It's not a one-off, and your financial situation isn't a one-off thing, it evolves, and you want to see how you progressively improve. You don't need to check every day, like you don't need to potentially check your investments every day, but quarterly is a great cadence, I found on my journey, and then you can look back and be like, wow, it was 6 months ago, and now this consumer debt I had is halved.
Yeah.
And in 6 more months, that's gone, and then I'm saving $600 a month.
It's going to be epically life-changing, right? Like having that emergency fund for when things go wrong, because let's be honest, things always go wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that also alleviates that level of stress as well, right? So if my fridge breaks down, I know I've got enough money in the bank to either fix it or buy a new one, versus, holy hell, I'm going to have to find somewhere to get a loan from. Am I going to go to family? Am I going to go to the bank? If those aren't an option, am I going to have to go and get a loan from someone I'm going to have to pay 50% of interest on? Like, there's all those kinds of things.
Or am I going to have to take the day off, get paid for that day, while, you know, contracting somewhere else or doing a side gig to quickly get myself that cash
Some
flow.
money, yeah.
And you see that quite a lot in certain industries.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't really want that. And if there's a culture in the organization of, hey, we are front-footing the financial well-being of our staff, then that actually might be raised.
Yeah.
Because as an employer, you might lose that day that was really, really critical to your path of getting a job done or a project finished, but you didn't know why that was. So it might be an opportunity, by creating that culture in the organization, that people may front foot these things more often, and then at least you've got a chance to intervene if you can and you're able.
Yeah, it's trust, right?
Totally. It increases that trust piece. Yeah.
So have you found that the employers that you've brought on board already onto the program, have you found that they are starting to see positive changes because of the program?
Sentiment has been good. However, I don't have concrete data yet to kind of demonstrate it working kind of at a quantitative level.
Yeah.
But the reception from the business leaders so far has been really positive.
Okay.
Because the employees have gone and said, oh, that was really great.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that was awesome. And there's a level of momentum you gain from that session.
Yeah.
And you want to carry that on going forward. And that momentum and excitement will bleed out into other parts of their lives and into the workplace, and that's really what we want to see, especially after the last couple of years, where it's been kind of, you know, when you lose sight of that longer term vision, then, you know, that's where things become a little bit more, I guess, negative. And you don't want that. You want a positive place where we know where we're going.
Yeah.
And that includes personally and professionally and from a business perspective.
Out of interest, when employees are having their one-on-one session, is there the opportunity for it to be not just necessarily the employee, but maybe the employee and his or her partner?
Yes,
or,
so that's encouraged.
Like, you know, lots of us come from big families, and family's really important. Are you open to having, you know, 5 people sitting there having the conversation?
Totally, yeah. I mean, even kids, we haven't really talked about like kids or others coming, but we encourage partners coming in a big way. And we talk about it. The session is about the household.
Yeah.
So you may have a parent that is actually a contributor to the household and may even have some income that kind of contributes to the household wealth.
Yeah.
And that's something that we take into account. So we look at the sessions as a household.
Okay.
So it's definitely family friendly and focused on the whole piece of the picture. You don't want only half.
Also, so for some people, you know, the view on finance and investing, they might see that as a very Western thing. So from people from different cultures, do you kind of work within that framework as well? Like, it's not just maybe having that Western, what's the right word? Lens on things?
I mean, we've actually, I would say that currently to date, I would say that maybe 60% are Māori and Pacifica.
Okay.
So far that we have engaged with. And we've had some really positive feedback from those individuals.
Yeah.
And I would say that given the culture of our company, we reject some of the parts of Western society that, like, we don't believe are working in our favour. And I believe that comes across in the program.
Cool.
And therefore, I believe because it's kind of thinking more holistically, it's being really well received by those cultures. And those cultures have it ingrained in them more so than Western kind of background to be more kind of one as a household.
Yeah.
And I think that gives you a huge advantage. I think that perhaps that's something that like Māori and Pacifica can like take on as being like a badge of honor that
Yeah.
actually their households seem to be net on average more cohesive in some cases.
Totally agree.
So like that's really cool, and we can learn from that, right? You know, we can help improve our program and build different cultural aspects in that are seem to be beneficial. How do you, from your health coaching as well, how have you observed, I guess, the impacts on people's health from the financial situation that they're in? And, you know, I guess we kind of see a lot of financial well-being kind of programs and the infrastructure around the industry about being an ambulance at the bottom of the mountain.
Yes, totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose from the health coaching space, you know, how much money you've got dictates how much food and what kind of food you can afford, right? So a lot of people are time poor, the hours that they work are long, so, you know, they've got to get something quickly on the table. It's much easier to go through a McDonald's drive-through and buy, you know, $50 worth of something that's going to feed a family of 5 or 6 versus going to the supermarket, buying a chicken, cooking it up, getting some fresh vegetables, all that kind of thing. So money does definitely impact health. Like in where I live out in West Auckland, and we've got, they call it Heart Attack Alley, which is Lincoln Road, right? There's so many different kinds of fast foods down there. Because of the demographic that lives there, that's what they can afford. And again, it's that time poor thing. So I think there's a direct correlation between financial literacy, the amount of money that you earn, and how you choose to spend it in terms of the impact that has on both your physical health, your family health, your mental health, all of that kind of thing. So if you don't know where you're at in terms of your money, it's not only going to have a long-term effect on your finance, it's going to have potentially a long-term effect on your health. And, you know, from the interviews that we've done, health is wealth, right? Without it, nothing else matters.
Totally. What would you say that you've learned from actually running the podcast and asking people about what wealth means to them and what, you know, their thoughts are around finances and I guess their longevity?
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest takeaways have been that relate to financial well-being?
Yeah, so obviously you talk about wealth, the first thing that pops into people's mind is money, right? And the kind of like underlying current, I suppose, with most people that we've interviewed, that is a big part of it. Not just the only part, but a big part of it. And so having that visibility of where you're at, how much you've got going on, and forward planning from that, and being able to see that, okay, right now, maybe things aren't working out as I want them to, but having that plan in place can make a huge difference to people's mindset. And I think mindset comes into play as well. Like all the people we've talked to, they've got the, what's the right word, when you have, I've completely lost the word. So you have, it's not capped. The possibility is always there.
They're open-minded.
Open-mindedness, open-minded mindset around your approach to money. That whole thought that money doesn't grow on trees, or you know, people who are rich are a-holes and that kind of thing. There is definitely that flowing within kind of New Zealand culture, I would say.
I guess there's an accountability element to it. They feel accountable maybe to their outcomes.
Yeah, totally.
And I guess this financial wellbeing program could provide the platform for people to take accountability for their outcomes.
Yeah, that's it. And to see that, okay, I feel like at the moment I've only got enough money to last me the week, to pay my bills, or to actually maybe I don't have enough money to pay my bills. But hey, I sat down with this guy called Charlie and we had a conversation, and I can see that there is a way out of this, you know, Shortfall, yeah. Which is a great gift to give someone, I think, too, because like we've spoken about, there's so much anxiety and angst, and, you know, it falls out into family dynamics, and I'm sure there's probably a really good correlation between family violence and financial situation. It's not something that's talked about a lot, but I'm sure it's there. You know, if you don't have your grounding of you know, knowing where the next paycheck's coming from and that you're going to have some left over at the end of the month, that can increase the stress load on a house hugely, especially if it's more than just maybe yourself and your partner. If you've got children, if you've got family who are living with you, it definitely adds to the mix.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. Awesome. Great episode once again. Thank you. Good to chat. Till the next time.
Full of
Full of wisdom.
I don't, yeah.